Welcome, welcome. This is Marnie. I'm excited to have you here with us today with our guest, Heather Dixon. And we're going to be talking about women's ministry planning for 2021 because as our whole worlds blew up in 2020 with COVID, it's still kind of a question where to put our feet right now going forward, where the solid ground is that we can actually start making headway into 2021 with women's ministry events and different things like that. Heather's here with us. We're going to be talking about the 2021 solution of hybrid events, what they are and how to maximize yours. Also, Heather's instant event concept, which we're going to explore together, how to help with marketing in a new economy, 4 God-given things you can do when you don't like what's happening. And Heather's our girl here. She's the author, speaker, and Bible teacher who shares from women or the rescuedletters.com, therescuedletters.com.
Right.
She's available to speak at your event from womenspeakers.com. Her new book is called Renewed, Finding Hope When You Don't Like Your Story or You Just Don't Like Your Season. So welcome to you, Heather.
Hey, thanks, Marnie, and thanks to everyone joining us. We're so glad you're here and happy just to support you and encourage you in this crazy year. Yeah, 2 years almost.
Right. I know. It feels like it's been forever.
Right.
And also at the same time, it feels like we're coming maybe hopefully through the worst of it, coming into a different season where there's going to be more opportunity to get together and hopefully pretty soon start seriously hugging one another because I miss that like crazy.
Yes, absolutely. I actually went to my pediatrician's office yesterday because my son's pediatrician's office, because I had forgotten to turn in a form and it was raining and I forgot my umbrella and my coat. And I had this little physical form just tucked in my shirt. And I got there and she met me outside the office. And the first thing she said was, "You're doing awesome, Mom." And I just wanted to hug her. And I was like, oh, I would hug you right now if we were not in this pandemic, but just that small word of encouragement. So look, you guys, you're doing awesome. Let me pass that along to you today.
Right. And it is a season where we need to take advantage of every opportunity to touch one another, even when we don't get to physically touch one another.
Right.
So, and that's I'm excited that you're here with us to explore kind of some of these angles. So I want to talk first about the hybrid events. And then we're going to move into some other ideas that you have too. But a hybrid event, if you imagine that mostly everybody's just been watching online. For almost a year, watching online. And some people get to go and be live there. But the people that get to go and be live on premise, they get the before church action, the church action, and the after church action. The people online show up as it begins, and as it's over, they're done. Okay, no interaction. So the hybrids are actually taking this to a new level where you have your on-premise, however much that can be for you. And every state and really almost every county has a different rule about that. So just whatever your rules are, you've got your on-premise people. But then you've got your at-home people, and there can be 2 categories of this that we can really make a difference in. So the first one is I'm alone sheltering at home. But I can be in a meetup group with other people similar to me before and after the main event.
Yeah.
And we can have like icebreakers here and we can have talk points for afterwards. And we can really have fellowship beyond just the main event. And then there's the third category of this hybrid event. And a hybrid, if you think of a hybrid, you take 3 kinds of roses and you twist them all together. And they become this amazingly new, beautiful rose. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at these events that have always just been in person. That's it. And now we have the opportunity to reach people that are really stuck at home. Okay, then you have this third category where she's not all alone because she can invite her mom, her sisters, her aunt, her neighbor, people that are just with her all the time. She knows that they're also being careful, yet they don't feel safe to go into a church environment yet for whatever reason. They can have a little party at home. They can come to the main event, but they too can have a party before, and they can have a chat after about what they discovered and learned or what God showed them during the event. So this is the hybrid event. We're actually launching a nationwide hybrid event April 10th and invite you guys to participate with us. You can learn more about that over at marnie.com or womenspeakers.com. So as we think about this, you actually have an instant event concept that you like to help with the women's ministry leaders. So tell us about that.
Yeah. And you know what? I can't take full credit for the idea. I listen to lots of people who are much more brilliant than me. Mary Snyder is one of them. And so she, I am listening to people to help me help you. And so this instant event idea was born from her brain. But what it is it's a PDF, free PDF download that includes all sorts of things to help you plan your event. Because I know as event planners, you guys are dealing with, number one, COVID restrictions, COVID policies. You're policing all of that within your church, and you're wondering, how in the world am I supposed to actually plan a beautiful event on top of that? And you guys are juggling so many things. And so what I've done is put together for you just the main things that you would discuss for an event planner, like your program agenda. How is the event going to flow? What pieces do you need in part of it? How long does everyone speak? Do you have a testimony? Do you have music? And, this isn't something that's finite. It's suggestions on a flow, an event flow that has worked well for my other event planners in the past. I have created a Spotify playlist for you. So all you have to do is plug in your phone to your sound system at your church, open up that playlist, and it's going to give you all the music as people are coming in, as people are coming out. If you need music anywhere, it's already chosen and curated for you specific to this particular event topic. I've given you your topic, which is 4 things that you can do when you don't like the story, when you don't like the season that you're in, and 1 thing that you can't, all of which is grounded in my Bible study and what I learned during studying Naomi's story in the book of Ruth, which I think is really relevant to us, right now. When I wrote it, much of my ministry are women who are dealing with chronic illnesses, and, major life circumstance change that they can't change. They just have to learn to deal with it. And Naomi's kind of the poster child for that. But, when I was writing the study, I was writing it for her, but having no idea that we were going to walk into this season of COVID when it was published. And so I think, that idea of wanting to be renewed and wanting to have this space where we feel like, we can start over again, is, women are really hungry for that. So it's got the program agenda, it's got your playlist, it has a checklist for creative ways to promote your idea, to think outside the box, particularly as Marnie, as you were talking about, with this hybrid sense, as we're still we have, maybe 1 foot, 1 baby toe in the real world and the rest of our foot in the COVID world. How do we begin to merge the two to still fulfill our calling to encourage the women in our community? And so it's just got, 7 ways to promote your event that are kind of outside the box. It has a prayer checklist, a prayer thing, and all the things that you want to pray over that I commit to praying you with. So it's your easy button so that you don't have to think about those ideas and you can focus on, the stuff that now is on your plate that you never expected to be dealing with. So that's the instant.
I love that.
Yeah.
Right. And that instant event is based on your book, Renewed, Finding Hope When You Don't Like Your Story. One thing I want to just toss out here as an idea before we move to the next topic that we wanted to discuss here today is there's 2 ways to actually take this deeper. So one, I have loved to speak at conferences where they've done my book as a Bible study before I got there.
Oh, I love that.
And then it's like, by the time I get there, we're already all best friends and we just take it deeper, but the other way is to do the event first and then do the Bible study after. Yeah. And again, you've gotten so far, but now you get to have your personality all engaged in their hearts. And then as they do this study, not only do they remember you and your story and your personality, but then they get to share each other's stories and personalities. Either way that you do this, when you guys incorporate a book into a main conference, it is really a huge benefit to the attendees, either before or after. So just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's a great, I'm so glad you said that, Marnie, because so often, as a Bible study teacher and writer, my job is merely just to guide you in your own personal study of God's word, right? I'm just your facilitator. What happens, what you're taught is how the Holy Spirit and God is working in your time when you're diving into the word. But women want to know, when they're, and I'm speaking from personal experiences, from studies that I've done, I want to know that the person who is guiding me through my study is she's got my back, and she's, at least relatable to me on some level, and, I want to know she's a real life human being woman who struggles with the same things that I do. And so, to your point, when I am able to come into a church that has either just done one of my studies or to launch their study, one of my studies that's coming afterwards, it creates, honestly, it creates connections that are lasting. I lead a group of over 700 women in studying the Bible and reading it every single day. And many of the women that are in that group are from the very first speaking event I did 5 years ago. And they stay with it because we've just developed this connection, that they know, okay, she's dealing with the same thing. So, whatever speaker you're working with, women want to know that they can connect with that particular speaker in a way. So this is a great idea. Great idea.
Right. Yeah, I love it. So let's talk about marketing now. So marketing in a new economy. And I know in your quick guide, you have some marketing ideas, and in the SOAR hybrid launch, we've got some ideas for you there too. So let's you and I just brainstorm out loud a couple ideas that we love for 2021. So go ahead, you go first, and then I'll follow.
Yeah, so this is something that actually started before 2021, but it's something that I've seen some success with, is creating a Facebook event page. Now, if you're hosting an event, and many of you already do this, but oftentimes I will request that the event host make me an admin to that page. And what that does, number one, is that once you start getting interest into your event, Facebook creates, it's almost like a mini group for that event. And so, if you like that event, or say you're interested in going to it, then you have this little hub where you can post announcements. Well, what I have done as a speaker is to get into that group. They let me, the event host makes me an admin. So then I can post teasers. I can post discussion comments. I can pop in and do a mini encouragement video. I can go ahead and pre-engage with your attendees. And so it's a little bit kind of like what you're talking about with your hybrid event, Marnie. It gives women an opportunity to have that connection before the event. And so no one's walking in blind. No one's walking into event thinking that they don't belong, or that, this isn't for them. Like, they've already made some connections online beforehand. And so my, first step is, number one, create a Facebook event page and invite your speaker to be an admin so they can pre-engage with your attendees. Marnie, what you got? Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, I don't want us to miss, because it was right in the middle of all that, is that you invite your speaker to provide you with a little promo video, just a 1 to 2 minute video that you can, of course, share on your Facebook group page, on your Facebook main ministry page, but also on Sunday mornings, you can play that one time with coming up, leading up. You want to have all of your gals feel very invited. So one of the things that we have found the most effective of anything is to make postcard size handouts. They don't have to necessarily be the heavy paper, but postcard size invitations. And then you give your leadership team, you actually put your women's names on the postcards. You give your leadership team, you just spread them out. And what we do is we just go like, well, I know her really well. I see her. I know her like that. We do that. We get the ones that we're going to mail. We do that. And then as the registrations come in, whether you're doing a paid or a free event, I just encourage you to do registrations. It just increases the likelihood. So what you want is you want to have them feel like they want to come and attend this. You want to have them feel like, I've made a commitment, I want to be there. And so the registration helps with that. As soon as a woman registers, you give her 5, either online, or if she's coming live on Sundays, you give her 5 postcards with no names on them for her to invite her friends, her family members. And what this is going to do then, as the personal invite goes so much farther than any other kind of invite we could ever do. We all want to feel like somebody truly cares about us personally, instead of just the pitch from the front. And so the personal invites, I think, are huge. Do you have another one that's coming to mind?
I do, and it's actually very similar to that, and it's the same concept, but with an actual telephone, like a phone call. Do we do that still? But I'm gonna ask 5 women to call 5 women, and 5 women. That's it. And say, will you personally invite your mom, your sister, your friend, your coworker, the person that God has laid on your heart to come to this event? And then ask those 5 women to call 5 women. I mean, it's the old school telethon, but it is that personal invite, because there's so much much noise coming in on, online and events and opportunities, and we're consuming so many things. And just that personal phone call event to say, hey, I'm going to this. Why don't you go with me? It speaks volumes because women know they're personally invited. So 5 women, call 5 women and keep that going on a personal level.
And I can already hear you saying, but we can't do that because we have limited space. But you can, because with a hybrid, as soon as the auditorium is full to capacity, whatever that is now, then you're going to move to these meetup rooms that are online before and after the main event. And so then as people register, you just assign them into a meetup room. And of course, if you have a friend who's coming with you, you just ask, I want to be in the same room as, Tina, whatever. So, I mean, you can still do this. And you guys, we can't keep waiting for the perfect thing to happen where we can go back perfectly to how it used to be. I think it's not going to be perfect.
No,
I don't know.
Take some time to get back to that.
Is it going to be 2021 when it's perfect? Who knows?
Who knows?
But we can begin to do this. And I'm just telling you, everybody's so lonely and so hungry for this additional level of interaction, especially your gals who are still sheltering at home for whatever reason. They are so hungry for fellowship, and you can provide it to them with a hybrid event. So we're excited to introduce this to you and to just encourage you to step forward.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit more about your book, Renewed.
Okay.
So you actually share 4 God-given things that you can do when you just simply don't like what's happening. What's the first one?
So the first one is give yourself permission to grieve. I think that so often, particularly those of us who are leaders in women's ministry, we see ourselves as, a face of the faith, a face of the faith in God. And we're so afraid to show to others that we are struggling with grief and loss and mourning the way things used to be. And Naomi reminds us, she has this very authentic expression of grief to God when she loses her husband and she loses her 2 sons. And so many times I have heard people judge her for that. But if you go back and you read and you look, does God punish her or judge her for that? No, he does not. In fact, he immediately starts working in her details to move her to a place of renewed hope. And so if we give ourselves that permission to grieve, to say, this is not okay. This is not the story I wanted. I did not want to be an event planner in the middle of a pandemic, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
I have no idea how to deal with this new normal. No, there's no manual for this. So give yourself space to say, you know what, God, I miss the way things used to be. Will you help guide me to the way things are now? But in the meantime, I need to tell you that I'm really struggling here. It's okay. Give yourself permission to grieve. That's the first step. We have to give ourselves space for that.
And I really feel like I've taught this so much, especially with the younger women who don't really understand how many angles grief comes in. Like, for example, when you have that first baby, it's supposed to be all wonderful, but actually you just lost the one-on-one time you had with your husband. You just lost your sleep.
That's
you
right.
just lost a lot of freedom. And so while you're celebrating this new wonderful thing, this baby, you also have to give yourself permission to grieve what you've lost. And if you just kind of try to gloss over the losses that you're experiencing and go directly from one thing to the next without taking time to do it, it's actually very exhausting on your system.
That's right.
And the permission to grieve is really important, and even the call to it. And I like the difference between, like, in the Old Testament, they gave like a long time, through 30 days or whatever, to grieve the loss of someone. But in the New Testament, it's calling us to grieve not as the world grieves, because we have the Holy Spirit inside of us now. And we actually have the opportunity to let him heal us faster than we could heal on our own without him.
Right.
There's so much hope there. So grieving doesn't have to be this big thing where I'm always sad and I'm always in the dump. In fact, I believe that the more clearly and honestly you grieve, the faster you'll be able to go back to joy and just being really celebrating life, even if it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The honest, authentic expression of grief is what we're after. I like that.
Right. Number two.
Number two is look for God in your details. And I think particularly for those of us who are walking through seasons where we're like, I can't hear you. I don't know what you're doing. Where are you? We have to trust in the fact that God is always moving, whether we can see or feel him or not. It's not his character that's changed. It's our perception. And so, we have to, like, if you're like, I have no idea what's happening here, I don't know where you're moving, start looking at the details. And, when you read through Naomi's story, we have the advantage of hindsight of looking back and seeing, wow, he started moving things quickly. Naomi had no idea what was happening, but we can see in those places where he was working and providing a field for Ruth to glean in so they could have food. And by the way, the field owner that she was gleaning in happened to be a relative of her husband, who, by the way, was going to save the day and make everything happy. Those were all the details that were happening that she had no idea. She couldn't see that working in that moment, but I think we have to start looking in small little ways and say, you know what, that was you, God, that was you in that detail. And I will be thankful for this detail today, because I know that tomorrow's detail will be even more and even more until I can finally figure out what the plan is. But I'm on board with the plan.
But I'm looking for you. Right. I think there's a big difference between saying, here's my plan, God, get on board, and me saying, where are you working? I want to get on board.
Right.
The difference. Yeah. Good. Okay. What's number three?
Number three is to take a baby step of faith, take a leap of faith, and work on the things that we can change while we wait for God to do the things that we can't. And Naomi does this exactly. She says, you know what? We need food. We need provision. Ruth, I'm going to help you find a husband. Now, again, she had no idea how it was going to turn out, but she knew God's going to work on the big stuff. I can do this, though. And I think, yes, God is sovereign. He's in control over all things, but he's given us free will. And I think that, when we take that baby step forward, it reduces the feeling that like we're paralyzed or that we're helpless. When we're inactive, I personally start to feel helpless and paralyzed in what I'm doing. But if I can just take one movement forward, then I feel like, you know what, that next step's not going to be so hard. And God's going to keep working on the big things, and I'm going to stay faithful to the small things. So what can you change in your day today that would move forward your plan or make you feel like you have greater peace? What's a baby step you can take today? Because that's a good step to take.
When COVID hit in March of 2020, then my whole day went kind of just kaboom, because what I've been doing for years, since 2002, is I spend much of my day matching leads between women's ministry leaders who are trying to match up with a speaker for their upcoming event and get that all scheduled. And so all of a sudden, nobody could have events. All the events that were on the books got canceled or postponed. And I had all kinds of time that I used to be doing something that I loved to do, that I wanted to do, that I felt sad that I couldn't do. And what was I going to do? And so I think that my biggest takeaway from 2020 for me, because it was just so that way, it was just in my face, was that I would just get up every day and I'd say, so what are we going to do today? And I had no idea how long it would last. But 2020 became one of the most amazing years. I will always look back at it and say, look what God did. Totally not what I expected, not what I wanted, but what I traded, I wouldn't. And I think that when our situation just changes so dramatically and we say, I don't even understand how to think about this. That's where we can say I love that verse, the lamp to my feet and the light to my path. It's like a flashlight. You don't have to see that far ahead to take the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah.
What's number 4?
Okay, number 4, piggybacks on number 3. And particularly as a speaker, and to your point of what you were just saying, Marnie, I really feel like 2020 is a year of preparation for many of us, a year where, I've told God, I don't want to slack off. I don't want to see this as a vacation or a break. What I want to do is use this gift of preparation so that I can be ready when the time comes. And so that fourth thing is to trust his promise of renewal, and that he will renew all things. And so our job as believers and as faithful sojourners on this earthly journey until we see Jesus face to face is to be ready for the next step and to be ready for when God says go, because it's going to happen. Like, I mean, it will happen, and it may not look the way it used to, but there will come a time, in this process of renewal and his redemption plan that happens over and over and over again, where we're going to be wide open to see the plan that he has put in place and the work that he's doing in our ministries. And so in the meantime, it really is just trust that there's a purpose, trust that this crazy pandemic, I mean, he will redeem the broken piece of this to renew our parts of our story that we don't like, to renew parts of a story of the women that we love and serve so much. One of the prayers I pray over my ministry every day is, God, burden my heart with the burdens of the women I am called to serve. Burden my heart with the burdens of the women I am called to serve, so that I'm always thinking about what they need the most. And so that's a fabulous prayer to pray in this meantime, for those of you who are planning events and, working towards what the next step is to say, okay, where do I meet my gals where they need you most? Take me there, prepare me for that, because I trust that you're going to bring us to a place where, we can see that renewal happening in our lives and our hearts first, and in the hearts of the women that we're called to serve. So trust in his promise for renewal. It's coming. It's coming.
Yes, he will restore what the locust stole.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And I think, there's really two very different things that I saw happening in 2020. One was that someone would say, okay, I don't know what's happening, but I'm just going to go forward by faith and believe that God's going to tell me what to do going forward. And then the other person is still pretty much standing in the door frame, in the earthquake, trying to be protected, trying not to, it's too scary to move. I'm kind of still stuck in the door frame. Trying to have as much protection here as I can. So I'm not moving forward yet because I'm just waiting for something. And we just encourage you that as God gives you the heart, the vision, the passion to go forward, that you step out and you do what he calls you to do. And he's got you. He's so got you. And I tell you what, I know, Heather, both you and I have seen him do amazing things in 2020, and the best is yet to come. So that's right. Step out and believe him and do what he's asking you to do. You guys want to definitely check out Heather's new book, which is, of course, Renewed, Finding Hope When You Don't Like Your Story. Her website is therescuedletters.com. Right. She's also available as a speaker over at womenspeakers.com. Thank you for joining us today, Heather, to talk about planning women's ministry going forward in this crazy 2021 now. And thank you so much for your life and how you share it so freely with so many. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Marnie. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. And you guys, thank you for joining us. I just love to have you here with us. If you want to learn more about Heather, again, it's at therescuedletters.com. And is it letters plural?
It is.
therescuedletters.com or womenspeakers.com, Heather Dixon. So thank you so much. And thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful day. See you next time. Bye-bye.